Obsessed is defined by Google as to preoccupy or fill the mind of someone continually, intrusively, and to a troubling extent. The Halloween Reddit has always been trash. It is a form I have sought to avoid because I think the opinions expressed are often not well thought out. The moderators are ineffective in enforcing any type of quality control. The users that populate it are just a weirdly antagonistic crew of know it alls who believe anything outside of what they would like or prefer is destined to not be successful, etc. Several weeks ago, a user started a thread titled, "Does anyone think Danielle Harris is begging to be in the next Halloween movie?" And their proof of her supposed begging is to screenshot one post she made in response to Miramax shopping around the rights to Halloween. What started out as a thread on whether Harris was begging to be in another Halloween movie, which was already a weird character examination of someone the thread creator doesn't know, turned into an indictment on her acting skills, notability, and personality, as well as an attack on her fans, and a push by many to pretend as if Halloween is bigger than it actually is. One of the recurring themes you're going to notice in this thread is that many users will say a majority or make something numerical as their claim that they have no evidence to support, whereas I often have proof of what I'm saying. I will put a hole in basically every single argument they make, and I'm going to divide this up into a few parts. Assaults on Harris's fame or talent as an actress. Now, it's one thing to not want Harris to return for another Halloween movie, but I find it interesting that there is such a vitriol toward both her acting ability and notoriety. One of the recurring insults employed in this thread is that Harris is a Z-list actress. Harris is not someone I would call an A-list actor, and I would concede that she is not as well known as Jamie Lee Curtis. She's someone who has a particular genre that I would say she's well known in, but for those who are not as familiar with the genre, they're most likely not going to have ever heard of her. If I could make a comparison, there are many black actors who appear in works mainly starring African Americans, which means they are steadily employed and appear in enough productions to have some fan base, but unless you're watching that genre of movies that they are in, you're most likely not going to be familiar with them. Another example would be Robert Englund. Yes, Freddy Krueger is one of the most iconic film characters of the last 40 years, but unless you watch Nightmare on Elm Street and other horror movies, you're probably not going to be familiar with Englund. That doesn't mean Englund is a Z-list actor. He's just in a specific genre that has a specific audience. By the way, I like how there's no middleman between being an A or Z-list actor. You're either extremely well known or just a complete irrelevant entity, or you're at the highest of highs or lowest of lows, to hell with nuance. I honestly wouldn't even call Jamie Lee Curtis an A-list actress. Like, her movies have made over 2.5 billion, but that still is not close to Scarlett Johansson, the actual highest grossing actress with 14 billion. YouTube is kind of like that too. I have less than 400 subscribers. Even if I had 4,000 subscribers or 40,000 or 400,000, there are still going to be people who have never heard of me. Many times people in real life are not watching YouTube or they're not into the type of content that I make. There could be a plethora of reasons for why someone hasn't heard of me, but it doesn't mean I'm a Z-list content creator. I just think fame is subjective, and to use that as the justification to not give someone a role, even if you believe they're capable of great acting, is weird. And they know this, which is why I have the comments where they attack her acting ability as well. Clifford wrote, "I don't see how this take is mutually exclusive with the others. Yes, as a person needing to make ends meet, I not only understand her reasoning, but I would commend her for being so persistent. But at the same time, it's still embarrassing because if you take the camera just a bit further out, you'll see it's not just hustler won't take no for an answer, it's out of work actress begs studio for work. And I'm not going to pretend like Hollywood is fair. It's not even a little bit. But Danielle Harris has a lot of well-known films under her belt, as well as a legion of fans, and she hasn't been able to leverage that in any way. She just isn't a good actress. It's why she does a podcast with another failed actress. It's embarrassing, but it's also a pretty typical American actor story. And she most likely did everything right, though I seriously doubt acting lessons were ever considered. Most failed actors never ever think it's their talent that led them to this destination. So not being able to leverage the well-known films you have under your belt and your legion of fans makes you a bad actress and a failed one too. I wish one of them would give a clear definition as to what constitutes a failed actress. I would think it was someone that isn't getting any roles, which is not her. So I guess they have to keep moving the goalposts. Also, I like how he makes sure to commend her for being persistent and admits that Hollywood isn't fair, but then also says she's embarrassing herself and that she's not a good actress. So it's like he's trying to throw her a bone while also condemning her at the same time. It's a nice way of talking out of both sides of his neck. Flashover writes, I don't mean this to shade her, but it's just sad at this point. I get it. Halloween is where she gets most recognition from, and she has a family to support. But no matter how popular Jamie Lloyd was with a minority of the fan base, I am one of them. Expletive love, H4. Danielle is not JLC. She is a Z-list actress that has zero box office draw for general audiences. She herself is not widely marketable, and neither is the Jamie character, and these movies will always be made first and foremost with the intent to make money above all else. And general audiences will always be more important to the studio than the minority of the fan base. JLC can come back whenever she wants because she's an A-lister who is basically the most recognizable face of the franchise next to the Shape. If anything, being cast in a new supporting role is the best chance Danielle has, and even that is probably slim to none. She should just crowdfund a fan film and do something like Tom Matthews and Never Hike Alone because Jamie Lloyd is never coming back to the franchise. So Harris never claimed to be JLC, and you see another example of the Z-list actress line that these people use excessively. Also, that's another thing they like to do. I love the movie you were in so much that I don't want you to come back for any more because you're not famous enough for my taste. Throwaway YCPA writes, I think in Danielle Harris's case, she performed well in Halloween versus her subsequent roles because she is just good at acting scared. It's very one-dimensional, etc., whereas she doesn't have a lot of breadth in her emotions. I haven't seen her in other movies other than Halloween, so I can't say how her performance turned out afterwards. So this person admits to only having seen her Halloween work, which is less than 10% of her overall filmography, but somehow still thinks it's wise to claim she's very one-dimensional. Assault on her fans. So as I said earlier, this thread is mainly about attacking Harris, but it also has some subtle jabs at her fans. Mick R. 2004 writes, I think it's clear she doesn't have the right management to get her involved, so she's hoping fan pressure will get her name in the running. But a lot of her fans are guys who just like seeing her in skimpy outfits and aren't exactly going to get some grassroots campaign going. How does he know a lot of her fans are guys who just like seeing her in skimpy outfits? Like, sure, Harris has taken risque images, but the fans don't have a say over what types of photos she chooses to take or make public or sell. I've never once purchased any image of her where she's not fully clothed. And as far as I can tell, there's no proof that those pictures are the ones mostly being bought, so it's just more hearsay. The Pawn of Tears writes, it's pretty freaking obvious that she's desperate and it's all she has. Do you think most actresses would like talking about a movie they starred in when they were a little kid 30 plus years ago all the time at conventions, dressing up in their childhood clown costume and posing with countless sweaty nerds who jack off to her? No, but she has no Hollywood career. She's a Z-list actress who stars in straight-to-DVD horror movies purely because she once starred in some Halloween movies, and she can't get anything better outside of that. We've already addressed the Z-list actress nonsense, but it's funny that this same guy in another comment said she needs to get a real job since she's supposedly a failed actress, but then admits that she still stars in straight-to-DVD horror movies. So why does she need a supposed real job if she's still getting work as an actress? But the best part is dressing up in their childhood clown costume and posing with countless sweaty nerds who jack off to her. The idea that I'm only interested in Harris because of a supposed physical attraction makes me sick. Harris is the same age as my dad, and I'm not someone who has any desire to date a person who could have gone to school with my parents. But even if that were true, what point is being made here? Am I supposed to be ashamed of myself for finding her attractive? Did it suddenly become a crime to be straight? Let's play devil's advocate. Pretend that I'm a Danielle Harris fanboy who is just a sweaty nerd that jacks off to her. What does any of that have to do with her wanting to be in another Halloween movie? It doesn't. It's just sexist drivel. If you're a man and you like an actress, you can't like her because you think she's talented or she's had various performances that you've really liked. No, it has to be due to your physical attraction, which is a bad thing for some reason. General antagonism toward either revisiting the Jamie Lloyd character or an H4 sequel. Now, at the time of this video, we have no confirmation of when we're getting another Halloween movie, what it'll be about, or what specific talents will be involved. Due to this lack of information, some fans have voiced their desire to see Harris return as Jamie in the sequel to either H4 or H5, more so the former than the latter. Now, the two arguments against doing this are that a return would be confusing for the average moviegoer, or that we need to do something new. I think both of these arguments are very dumb. The first one is dumb because it pretends that we haven't done this before, which is make a sequel to a sequel and ignore the sequels to the movie we're still making a new sequel to. This is what H2O did, and while there were and still are some people who were confused by H4, H5, and Curse not being canon to that movie, it still was considered at least financially successful. The other side of this argument is either Halloween 4 or the character of Jamie Lloyd are not well known enough to warrant interest by the general public, so they never have any data to support this, but I'm actually going to agree with them and go a step further in saying that neither Halloween or Michael Myers interest the general public either. Halloween is a horror franchise. It's probably one of the most well known, but it still is not like Marvel or Star Wars. It's a movie franchise that a lot of people may be aware of, but it doesn't mean they've either seen all or any of them. And you can see how niche of a series it is when you look at its box office compared to any actual blockbuster released the same year. Halloween H2O, the movie that some critics and fans said was the best since the original, made $75 million. This highest grossing installment in the series up to that time still lagged behind the most successful movies of that year, with Armageddon making $553 million and Saving Private Ryan making $481 million. Let's look at 2018 Halloween, the movie that some critics and fans said was the best since the original. It made $259 million, which sounds hot on paper. But what did the highest grossing movies of that year make? Infinity War made $2 billion, and Black Panther made $1.3 billion. And remember, Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends made less money than 2018, with Ends making less than half of what 2018 made, with only $105 million. You could say that was due to Peacock, but the point I'm making is that these movies are, even at their most successful, only being seen by a fifth of what could constitute as a general audience. So whether you use Jamie Lloyd or not, you're never going to capture the amounts of money that films geared toward general audiences are acquiring, because Halloween and horror films in general do not appeal to general audiences. And as for doing something new, I can almost guarantee that the next Halloween movie will be some iteration of Michael stalking and killing people. Just because Michael is chasing Bret Hart instead of Jamie Lee Curtis doesn't make it different. So this supposed desire for new characters is really just a way to give a middle finger to any fan that wants a past character or actor to return. Box office expert Flashover writes, "Simple, movies are made to make money, and general audiences, and honestly the fan base majority, don't give up about Jamie Lloyd. She's not a marketable character." Now, I don't know what he means by marketable character, but what proof does he have that general audiences and the fan base majority don't care about Jamie? Has there been some mass poll comprising Halloween fans that he can cite as proof of this, or is it yet another example of people citing their beliefs as fact? Marketable character. I've seen reviews of Halloween Kills in which people refer to Loomis as the Doctor, and my friend who has only seen Kills and Ends called Laurie the Grandmother. So even the two most iconic characters in the series besides Michael, you could make the argument, are not familiar to general audiences. Boojang Sanang 1992 writes, "I'm sorry, but she was only the lead in two Halloweens, one of which is Men, the other of which is an abomination. They are also the films that started the whole 'let's explain Michael's evil' nonsense. I don't think there is any need to bring her back except maybe as a fun cameo." She was only the lead in two Halloweens. So was Jamie Lee Curtis, and that didn't stop her from returning. It's funny that he calls one of Harris's films as Jamie an abomination, which is exactly how John Carpenter referred to Halloween 2, which is still one of the better received sequels. The most interesting part is that he refers to H4 and H5 as the films that started the whole "let's explain Michael's evil" nonsense. H4 has nothing that explains Michael's evil, and the only addition to Michael in H5 is a tattoo, the importance of which is later explained in Curse. What did I say earlier? Many of these newer fans have never even seen the movies they speak disparagingly of. They just watch a YouTube review or a retrospective and get them all hobbled together. Ignorance is bliss. KB117 writes, I appreciate what she's done for the franchise, but it's time for it to move on. We don't need Jamie back. We don't need her in a new role. Do something fresh. You could make the argument that we didn't need Jamie Lee Curtis back, but it still ended up happening anyway. And like I said, whether Michael is stalking Bret Hart, Jamie Lee Curtis, or Eddie Guerrero, it's still going to be him killing people. Bringing back some past character doesn't make it any less fresh or stale than it already is. Stactionality writes, she's had a lot of work done, and she looks horrible now. Why is it always people online that hide their face that talk about the way someone else looks? So I include this comment because it completes the wide range of hostility that subreddit has for this woman. Like, we don't want you to come back to Halloween. And by the way, you're a bad / failed / Z-list actress, and all your fans are just sweaty nerds who should feel bad for finding you attractive. And by the way, you're ugly too. This is the only comment here that was not written in the thread I focused on, but still on the same subreddit. A user posted a picture of 3 guys dressed as Michael posing with Danielle, and most of the comments were people complimenting those in the image, the cosplayers and the actress. But Daddy J711 writes, 4 buttons undone. She's pretty brazen. This is followed by Matt Stywit responding, given that she's only actually got 2 buttons fastened. The rest of them are left open for the cleavage window, and the tied-off shirt tails in the front, plus the convenient necklace that also hangs down right in the middle to draw attention directly to the valley. I'd say it's more than just brazen. It's transparently obvious, and has been for a good long while, that she's desperate for attention, and the conventions she goes to now are basically the only place she gets it, since her career is kind of dried up. And since we're being blunt about the topic, it seems obvious to me she's had some work done. Let's just leave it at that, especially with her face, which looks so smooth that she looks like a walking Photoshop advertisement. We're at a point now where these people are analyzing the outfit she wore to a convention, and I'm really supposed to believe they're not obsessed with her. If you unbutton your shirt, you're brazen or just looking for attention because your career is dried up. I wear nothing but button-down shirts, and I always have 2 or 3 buttons undone where you can see my necklace. Does that mean I'm desperately looking for attention too? And notice the recurrence of the she's had some work done comment. As someone who's never had any surgery of any kind, but who has nonetheless been attacked for his physical appearance, I can assure you she would be critiqued by this same group whether she had some work done or not. Now, I understand that this is the internet, and so of course people are going to type things with no concern for what they're actually writing. But I find it extremely disturbing that all she did was make a 1-sentence post on Instagram, and that was enough for a thread to be made in which she and her fans are both attacked, along with general nasty comments directed at the film she was in too. This isn't the first time they've done this, although it seems Harris is the only one they do this to, and it's a large part of why I don't talk regularly with other people who claim to be Halloween fans. So much antagonism, toxicity, and lies. If she's a Z-list actress, then every single person that wrote something in that thread is a Z-list commentator. After all, do you think Malik Akkad is tossing and turning at night wondering what Clifford Flashover or Pawn of Tears 93 thinks he should do with the Halloween franchise? Do yourself a favor, and if you ever go to Reddit and you see the Halloween movie subreddit, close the tab. Close the tab as fast as you can. They also have an advertisement for you to join their Discord. You're frankly better off disabling your internet than going in that filth.